Hello, welcome to the Horti-Culturalists. I'm Matthew Lucas.
And I'm Stephen Ryan.
And we post a video every week on a Friday, so do hit subscribe and the notification bell if you want to know exactly what we're doing every week.
And don't forget the comment section. You can ask your questions of us and I will answer them on a Monday in our shorts.
He will indeed, because Stephen is our resident horticulturist. So Stephen, we're in a busy entryway to a bustling business. Where are we?
Well, we're at Kuranga Native Nursery, and we're talking Australian natives, of course, in Mount Evelyn, which is in the foothills of the Dandenong Ranges.
Yeah. And why are we here today particularly?
Well, we're going to feature a genus of plants that has been a really popular genus for many, many years as a garden plant, and it offers so much, from ground covers to moderate shrubs to beautiful climbing plants like one just behind us here, and it's called Hibbertia. It's a wonderful genus, some 380 odd species, so quite a decent sized one, and extends from Madagascar through Australia, Papua New Guinea, and then into the southwest Pacific Islands, but no New Zealand ones.
Interesting. And I grew up in Western Australia, very familiar with the ones that grow in Perth metropolitan area and in the southwest. Fascinating. So Kuranga is the most wonderful native plant nursery, perhaps the best in the country in terms of the breadth of species. You can come and visit. All the team here are real specialists. It's laid out in the most incredible way, so that there are sort of circles for ground covers, small shrubs, medium shrubs, tall shrubs, trees, strappy leaved things, and water plants. So
yes,
well worth coming in. The cafe is sensational. We can both attest to that.
Yes, it certainly is. And everybody has to exit through the gift shop, so there you go.
You do indeed. It is a fabulous place. So many thanks to Ben and the team here at Kuranga for letting us wander around. And in fact, they've recently just won an award.
Yes, from the Nursery Industry Association. They won a Best Retail Nursery Award.
And well deserved too, because
yeah,
it is the most beautifully laid out and so easy to navigate nursery. So we are just focusing on Hibbertia today. Now also, because there are so many fabulous things in the nursery, we're just going to pop in a couple of the things that we have loved that are in bloom at the moment in the nursery. So we'll include those in this Hibbertia video.
Yeah, so you'll have to watch it all the way through to find out what things have attracted our attention that aren't Hibbertias.
But now, Stephen, before we go and meet Ben, who's the owner of this wonderful nursery, we must say too, there is the most incredible restaurant and cafe here. We just had the best lunch, I think,
yes,
ever
it was fantastic.
in a nursery. So when you come here, come for the day, because it's really stunning. There's a really great shop too, which has a really great book section, which is not easy to come across these days.
Yes, good gardening books.
So here we are, native plants. Now I don't wish to allude to age, but you've kind of been through various iterations of the native plant push. And we've also visited Edna Walling Gardens, and Edna Walling ended up becoming a great proponent of native planting. So give us the potted history of the use of native plants in this country in a gardening perspective.
All right. Well, before my time in horticulture, gardening was all about trying to copy things from overseas. So they wanted the English style gardens. They certainly didn't appreciate our Australian native plants particularly, with the exception of one or two things. But when the 60s hit, the 1960s, there was this incredible push to grow native plants. What tended to happen though, because we didn't have a long background in creating native plants, we didn't do a lot of breeding with our native plants. So anything that happened to grow in Australia was seen as something that they should be growing and selling to the poor home gardener who had no idea what they were getting. So a lot of inappropriate stuff showed up in the 1960s. People suddenly realised that a blue gum wasn't a very good idea in a tiny front garden in suburban Melbourne. And so, in fact, there was a backlash against our Australian native plants, rather unfortunately. But it was because we weren't really ready for it to become a major part of horticulture, because we didn't have the breeding and the selection and all those things that hundreds of years had created with many of the Northern Hemisphere garden plants. So we were just planting almost anything just because it was native. So now we're coming back again. We went through an era after the native era where the cottage garden became a major thing, and then we realised in Australia that a lot of cottage garden plants are herbaceous, so our winters looked a bit boring if you only had herbaceous perennials. And now we've come back into natives again. I reckon from the mid-1980s through to 1990, native plants started to get pushed forward again. But this time people actually had information, they had knowledge about what they were doing, and they were selecting superior forms of many of the plants. And so now when you go out to plant a native garden, there's every likelihood that you'll be buying hybrid native plants that are specifically selected for garden usage. And I think we did get away from that it's either natives or it's not type gardening, because that was the other issue. When people went native in the early days, they went completely Australian native, and there was all sorts of things said about you can't mix exotics with natives and all these different things, which is absolutely not true.
And the growing trend also for Mediterranean planting, so obviously a lot of Australian plants fit that bill, but not all of them. So not every Australian plant is water-wise.
No,
not
exactly.
every Australian plant can take full sun. Not every Australian plant doesn't need pruning or watering or mulching or feeding. So they're as complex to look after as any other plant in many regards.
Of course they are. I mean, and in fact, there's other layers. Many of our Australian native plants have a phosphorus allergy, so you can't use high phosphate fertilizer on them. But that doesn't mean they can't grow in the same environments as, say, your azaleas, your camellias, your rhododendrons, your magnolias. It's just a matter of using them appropriately.
Yeah. And so just a note about the nursery, it's open to the public, and Kuranga doesn't wholesale, they just focus on their retail customers, and they don't have an e-com site for plants, so you're going to have to come here. For those of you outside of Australia, this is just a wonderful, tantalising ramble through Australian native plants.
Horticultural eye candy, basically.
Well, on that note, we should go and meet Ben, who is the owner-operator of this extraordinary place.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Hibbertia 101, Stephen. Where does the name come from?
All right. Well, it was named after a guy called George Hibbert. He was a wealthy merchant in Britain. He was also a politician. He was a very passionate amateur botanist, and he had a very important private botanic garden in Chelsea. He had plants from Botany Bay, he had plants from the Cape area, so he was collecting from all over the world, and he was also supporting people who went out to collect, so he was being part of the whole scenario in his time.
And has a genus named after him?
Yes, something we'd all aspire to.
Well, you do. There is, of course, Dahlia Stephen Ryan, which rings many people's bells, Stephen.
I have to say, Dahlia Stephen Ryan is fabulous. I'm very fond of it, but it's not having a genus named after you, which is in fact a completely different level when it comes to plant naming.
It is. Now, there's quite a common Hibbertia that's a climbing plant that you'll find literally in every big box hardware nursery, which is?
Yeah, well, that one is Hibbertia scandens, which means scandent. It runs all over the place, and it can be used as a ground cover or a fence cover. You can climb it up, you could cover your shed in it. It's a very hardy plant, and it has very large, bright golden yellow flowers. And yes, it is one of those ones that seems to have found its place in horticulture.
Yeah, not here though, because it's quite common, but there is a beautiful climbing one, which we're going to go and visit later on. But this one is interesting, Hibbertia microphylla.
Which is quite obvious when you look at it, because it has very microphyllas.
Goodness me, tiny leaves and tiny flowers. So I guess, I mean, you mentioned that the genus covers quite a large proportion of the world.
Well, Southern Hemisphere-ish, right from Madagascar right through into the South Pacific. So it is quite a broadly spread genus of plants, and obviously it's developed in different ways to fit different niches in the natural habitat.
I mean, this very tiny arid looking thing to the really lush climbers. Well, let's go and meet Ben and learn his take on Hibbertias.
Good. Oh, this is much more comfortable.
Well, Ben, once again, here we are in your fabulous native nursery in the foothills of the Dandenongs outside of Melbourne. Today, looking, because this shrub struck us as we were wandering around, this incredible yellow plant. So what are we looking at today?
So, this is another genus, Hibbertia. So, common name is the guinea flower. There's a fair diversity with Hibbertias, from small rockery plants, creeping ground covers, shrubs, and even a couple of climbing plants.
It's certainly a big genus, and I hadn't realised till I looked it up that there's well over 380 species in the genus, and that it extends not just in Australia, but it goes into the Pacific Islands and across to Madagascar and
Madagascar?
Yeah, as well.
Well, you're going next year. You'll have to look for some.
Yes, I'll have to see if I can find a Madagascan Hibbertia.
I always just thought they were southwestern Australian, but
Clearly not.
No.
No.
But do they just do yellow, Ben? Is there any other colour that you're aware of in the genus?
There is. There's a cream flowered Hibbertia dentata, a climber. The climber that we've got in the garden, that also comes in a cream.
Wow, and we'll go and look at that because
But that's just pale yellow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
that is a showstopper, the climber.
Yeah.
There aren't, I mean, Australian natives aren't well known for climbing plants. Is that fair to say? I mean,
No,
if you're looking
I disagree with you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Well, we've got Hibbertias around us here at the moment. We have native clematis, and we do have a good range of native climbers. Some of the Canedias, coral peas and things.
I've been shut down on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
It was great to see that climbing Hibbertia by your front, which we'll go and look at. But so a huge range geographically then. Again, can we generalise with care?
A little bit. A lot of the ground cover and small shrub forms are great for slightly shadier spots and heavier soil. So the ground cover Hibbertia pedunculata is a great option for full sun or shade, but also where you've got more soil moisture. And it's got the ability to drop down roots at the nodes and sort of spread into a nice patch over time. So
not great for you because people can propagate themselves.
They're long-lived. They replace themselves and they just layer over for 20 years. You have the same sort of organism there. So
you just mentioned ground covers. There's the climber. What else do they do in terms of the scale and form?
I just thought of another yellow. There's an orange one, Stellaris, which is a classic small shrub. Behind you here, this is Hibbertia serrata,
which is stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is getting dapple shade from a eucalypt. I mean, are most of them going to like that sort of condition, dapple shade?
Yeah, they'll take full sun, but dapple shade is good. Yeah.
And then propagation-wise, you just mentioned some of them will actually sort of layer themselves, and cuttings generally.
Everything's from cuttings for us. Yeah. If you can, no doubt, you can grow them from seed, but commercially, we grow everything from cuttings.
Yeah. And then we've mentioned this in your nursery, but you can get down to sort of 0 degrees centigrade, so 32 Fahrenheit, and maximums in the 40s centigrade, so that is like 110 Fahrenheit, hot. Hibbertias fine with that?
They hold up as long as there's moisture.
Yeah.
So in terms of heat, they're quite tolerant of. They grow here naturally, so it's not a problem. They're not out of the distribution really. Like we've got a number of them that grow around us locally in the hills.
Yeah.
In terms of cold weather, again, we get Hibbertia obtusifolia. Some of those varieties get too wet for us through winter and suffer from the cold. But generally, they're somewhat frost hardy.
Great.
Well, Ben, another genus of very interesting native plants, albeit it's a genus that does extend outside of Australia that I just learned. But thanks again for having us along to Kuranga Native Nursery and exposing us and our viewers to some interesting plant material.
And again, we'll put all the links below, which gives your opening hours, and you must come and have a look at the wonderful nursery and the display garden that's all around, where many of these things are in situ.
Thank you.
So we've seen sort of tiny Hibbertias, we've seen ground cover ones, we've seen medium ones, but this...
Yes, it is quite something. That golden yellow flower of this Hibbertia dentata is to die for. It's a lovely, lovely plant.
Now, what's this going to need, do you think?
Well, they're reasonably hardy, most of the Hibbertias, so I'd say semi-shade to full sun. They're fairly drought tolerant when they get their roots down. I'm not sure how cold tolerant this particular one would be, but certainly worth looking out for if you have a nursery that has Hibbertias for sale.
Yeah, but this is not your common garden climbing Hibbertia, so you might have to struggle a little bit to find this one, but it's gorgeous. The size of the flower is extraordinary, and the bronze leaf, wow, it's such a gorgeous combination. So the other thing is, it's not a twiner per se, is it?
No,
what's it doing? It's,
well, it actually climbs via, sort of twining around things.
And then drapes.
But it's the main stems that twine around. It doesn't have tendrils and things, so the stems will wander around the support. I just think, where it is here, just using it to clothe a pole that's holding up the veranda is a perfect spot for it because it's also not overly rampant.
No, I was going to say, this is actually, it's more like a specimen climber, isn't it? It's not going to cover a pergola or,
Well, not in the foreseeable future, no.
Screen anything. It's got a lovely habit too, and leaves and flowers from the base all the way up, which again not always the case with climbers.
Yeah, well, a lot of climbers are inclined to leave their bare legs behind. So this one is clothed beautifully all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
So I could see lots of uses for it in a garden setting.
There we go. Stephen, what have you found?
Well, I found something that I've seen in the wild in the mountains of Tasmania.
Wow.
Dracophyllum secundum. And it used to be in the Epacrodaceae family, which includes native heaths and things like that.
Yeah, which I could see.
Yeah, but this whole family has been sunk into Ericaceae, which is the ericas, heathers, rhododendrons, azaleas, all that group. So it's now in the much larger family of Ericaceae. And it's a gorgeous shrub that you'll see as a sort of mounding shrub up in the cold, mountainous parts of Tasmania. Really fabulous plant.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. Look, here's one in the pot. It looks a bit, in Tasmania, there's a pandanus, a cool climate pandanus. It looks a little like that to me.
Well, in fact, the supposedly cool climate pandanus is botanically known as Riccia, and it's also in the same Ericaceae family. So it's just another genus within that family, and it isn't actually a cold hardy pandanus because it's not related to the true pandanus.
It's not a pandanus.
Yeah.
But Stephen, while we're here looking at this, which is stunning and it's taken my breath away too, I just have to show the viewers because this made me chuckle because it's very pertinent to you.
It is?
Yeah. Here is a Dicksonia antarctica, and it's a cultivar called Twist of Fate.
Yes.
So your nursery is called Dicksonia rare plants.
Yes, and this is a form of Dicksonia rare plants that's obviously been discovered with this tassel-like ends to the fronds, which I think is rather weird, I have to say. I'm not sure I actually approve, but there you go.
Kuranga and Ben, I'm sorry, this does just look diseased. It looks like it's been attacked by something.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But look, a fern collector, I mean, this is just the sort of thing that back in the Pteridamania times, when people were collecting ferns and building huge ferneries like at Ripponlea Estate.
Which we'll link, we made a video in that fernery.
Anything that was tasseled or dissected or cut in one way or another was highly collectible.
Yeah.
So I guess, yes, if you're a fern fanatic, you might be interested in that Dicksonia as well.
Twist of Fate.
Yes.
Stephen, what's caught your fancy at Kuranga Nursery?
Well, I've always had a soft spot for this quite small genus called Tomassia. They have interesting foliage. They have very attractive flowers.
Yes.
And actually, for me, the flower buds are almost as important as anything else because you've got these gorgeous little brown, furry flower buds. It makes a great small shrub, around about 1 metre tall, a little bit wider than it is tall, and it's fairly shade tolerant. And I've grown it at Macedon quite easily, so it will cope with a little bit of frost and cold. Yeah. And it's really sweet.
Very delicate too, a very delicate looking thing. Ah, divine. All right, one of the many things that have stopped us in our tracks.
Well, exactly.
At Kuranga Nursery, which you'll have to come and visit to find more such things.
Yes.
Well, there we go, Stephen. Hibbertias, a fabulous group of plants. And I'm, I think, most struck by the climbing one because I had no idea such a thing existed. And it's a beauty.
Yeah, well, there's actually several climbing ones, but this one, dentata, is actually new to me. I know Hibbertia scandens quite well, commonly known as a snake vine. So I've seen that around in lots of different places.
Yes.
But this one is a completely new one to me, and I think it's stunning.
It really is. So there you go. Eyes are open, so you must come and visit Kuranga. We'll put all the links below. Website and Facebook and Instagram are the ways to find them. The team here is amazing. They don't wholesale and they don't have e-com, so you really are going to have to come and visit when you're in Melbourne.
Well, in fact, you might find that plant you didn't know you needed.
Yes, which I, of course, have done. Stephen, how can we possibly top this?
Well, I don't know that we will, but we'll certainly be in interesting horticultural places, doing hopefully interesting horticultural things.
Indeed. So we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye all.